It's a real privilege to have this opportunity to say a few words about Pat, and I'm very grateful to Leslie and Mark for asking me to share in this occasion today with all of you, her family and friends. I should begin by saying a little bit about how I got to know Pat. I first met her back in 2001 when she was admitted to Delwood Hospital, where I was then chaplain. And I remember as if it were yesterday the charming and extremely direct lady who invited me to sit down for a chat, established from the outset that I didn't mind talking to a heathen, which was how she jokingly referred to herself, and then was just as interested in learning all about me as she was in talking about her ailments. And from that first meeting, I gleaned some very important things about Pat. First, she was a real extrovert with a great sense of humour and a wicked laugh. She called a spade, and she didn't suffer fools gladly. She was genuinely interested in other people's lives. And she loved and was incredibly proud of her family, Ian, Leslie and Mark, and her beloved grandchildren. Our friendship developed over the years entirely within hospital walls, be it the Royal Berks or Delwood, or later on the Oakwood unit. I never saw her anywhere else. And at each admission, she would greet me with some variation on "the old bugger's back again." And once we got over the obligatory first request for me to find some kind doctor who'd give her a prick up the bum to put her to sleep, we'd get on with talking about life instead. And boy, did Pat relish life. Inevitably, when you only see people from time to time when they're ill enough to be in hospital, you just get glimpses of the whole person. So it was a real joy to talk with Leslie and the family in preparation for this afternoon, and to learn all sorts of things about Pat that I hadn't known. I can't possibly mention them all, but I know you will all have your favourite memories here today. Pat was born in 1924 and brought up in Liverpool. She was always vibrant, outgoing, talented. And those qualities were seen in abundance when she worked for the Foreign Office and lived in Germany in the late 40s. Back in the UK, she worked for an advertising company and travelled around the country doing demonstrations. And it was while she was engaged in that that she met Ian, her husband-to-be, who owned a chain of grocery stores. They married in 1953 on a Monday morning because they didn't want to fuss. Leslie was born in 1956, in the summer, the only time she was allowed to interrupt Wimbledon, right up until her 21st birthday, when she was actually permitted a party before the tennis fortnight was over. The family lived in Richmond till 1975 and then moved to Salisbury. At the beginning, the transition was a difficult one, as they were unable to sell their house in Richmond, and Pat spent an unhappy 18 months commuting between the two places. But once settled in Salisbury, they were incredibly happy there. Their social life blossomed. Pat was the life and soul of every party, a member of Young Wives and WI, an excellent cook who always made cakes for other people to eat, and in fact never ate anything sweet herself until the age of 82, when she discovered what she'd been missing and became obsessed with chocolate. Pat was hugely hospitable and always welcomed people into her home, as long as the tennis wasn't on the television. Somehow, though, this hospitality never extended to spending family Christmases in their own house. And according to Leslie, Pat succeeded in only cooking a Christmas dinner once in her entire life. And they always ended up travelling on Christmas days to other members of the family. As a person, Pat was a one-off. She was, as we know, a feisty character. She made friends. She fell out with people sometimes. But through it all, she had a zest for life that was truly infectious. Moderation was not her middle name. There were Leslie's birthday parties, helped along by sherry, poured surreptitiously from the teapot. Pat was also a heavy smoker, until she abruptly gave up in the 1980s. She had a flamboyant fashion sense, and she loved buying clothes, poring over catalogues when she couldn't get to the shops anymore. She enjoyed having her hair done and her nails done. I demand attention, she was saying. And she never quite lost her sense of mischief, even when she was ill. One of my favourite, fairly recent memories of her was in Oakwood Hospital on a warm spring day, when she offered me a drink from the large plastic bottle of mineral water at her bedside, and I took a mouthful of what I discovered to be vodka and tonic. Pat was a people person. As I've already mentioned, one of her great gifts was a genuine, totally unforced interest in others, in what was happening to them, even when, in terms of ill health, bad things were happening to her. She had strong opinions about most things, ranging from the state of the world and politicians, to hospital consultants, and to deaf people who refused to wear hearing aids. Stupid. She was good at looking after people, and she loved her family. And these traits often came together over the years. So in Salisbury, she looked after her aunt, suffering from dementia. She loved her husband Ian and looked after him. She adored her grandchildren. I'm sure she was a really fun grandmother. And although I didn't have a chance to meet and get to know Emily, Abby and Harriet until now, I certainly heard all about you. She was so proud of you. Pat was fiercely independent. After Ian's death, and despite her own deteriorating health, she somehow managed to stay in her flat far longer than anyone expected. She made friends of her carers and resisted any suggestion of going into a home to be cared for. I don't like being around old people. Pat got really fed up towards the end of her life. Tired of being ill, tired of repeated stays in hospital, and of not being able to do things anymore. She had already decided she wanted to give her body for medical research, which sadly wasn't possible, and she was adamant she didn't want a funeral. She'd never been to one in her life, and she didn't want people going to hers. She thought that a party would be a far better idea. And that's why we're here today. To have a party, to remember Pat, to celebrate her life and all she meant to us, and to give thanks for the joy of knowing her. And in a few moments, when we quite properly have a cup of tea, maybe we can imagine sherry coming out of that teapot and raise a toast to Pat. Unique, lovable, and never to be forgotten.